Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Team Tuesday this week on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We have with us Gunnar Fischer. Hey, Gunnar, welcome back.
Hello.
So, Gunnar, we're going to talk about teams in a second, but before we dive into that, do share with us, and I hesitate as I ask this, the book that most inspired you in your career as a Scrum Master.
Yeah, it's always cruel choosing one when you have read so many, and I'm usually recommending a lot of books in my everyday life, but if I had to pick one, it's Jeff Watt's Scrum Mastery, second edition. It's, of course, a classic for Scrum Masters. Why was it so important for me? It influenced me years before I actually read it, and I'm still using it. This book has a lot of phrases about a good Scrum Master does this, and a great Scrum Master does that. And when I read it the very first time, just after having a Scrum course, I thought, oh my God, this kind of wisdom, what should I do with it? Years later, I read those phrases again, and I said, oh my God, I understand them. And then when I was a Scrum Master with a few years of experience, I said, yeah, of course, it's like this. Why would it be different? And then suddenly I became modest and said, yes, we know these are truth phrases, but it's about making them true and living them and watching out for when they are not true. And now I'm more like childish with the curiosity. Let's look into this book. And just a couple of months ago, I was asked, can you explain what a Scrum Master is in a couple of phrases very shortly? And I went through this book, looked up a phrase like a good Scrum Master is indispensable, a great Scrum Master is dispensable and wanted. And for me, this is such a good summary. This book is for me the Noble Knight of Scrum books. And in times when everybody is challenged and people are making fun of Agile practitioners, this brings back all of the ideals of what a Scrum Master is really about.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll put the link on the show notes, as well as a link to the episodes we have with Jeff Watts, the author of the book. So it's always great to be able to listen to the author and understand their thinking, and then read the book, because the book has that thinking somewhat crystallized. Of course, not all of it, but some of it crystallized. So definitely we'll put the link in the show notes for everybody to go and read it. Amazing recommendation. But Gunnar, now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes they can become their own worst enemies, often despite our help, and sometimes even because of it, they enter these self-destructing patterns. So Gunnar, share with us that story. We'll dive into the takeaways and the conclusion later, but tell us the story first.
Yeah, my worst team, luckily it's a very easy pick. I was not this team's Scrum Master, but it was supposed to be a Scrum team, but it was neither Scrum nor a team. So it was more like the anti-pattern bingo team. So this was my first job abroad. I had just cut all ties to my country of origin, moved abroad, and I was coming on this specific team. And I soon realized that we were in trouble. The manager changed. There was a big minus, let's say, and I learned over a couple of months. So first in the company, there was something going wrong. The team within the company had a bad reputation, was used as a punchback. The manager of manager was treating it more like a stepchild. The new manager, how to explain? I think the new manager was not sure what he had signed up for or what he should do with the team or what his job was. And then the individuals on the team also didn't, and at least some of them, I don't think they wanted to work in this team or like a team. So it was like failure on every single level that you can imagine. This includes me, of course, as well. I mean, it was also on this team. And me not looking through this and me also not taking the right steps that I should have taken back at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the team continuously missed its goals, didn't find agreement, didn't work together, didn't have a right tone. The people on the team didn't find the right tone. There was a lot of decisions made behind closed doors, outside of the official meetings, and whatever dimension you could bring up, I think that team showed how not to do it.
And of course, that was the end result. But what led the team to that? Like, what were, I don't know, some signs or behaviors, external or internal, that led to the team reaching that state?
Yeah. And I think, again, you could go on basically every level. I think the overall company situation at the time was not very good. And this politics and backstabbing and everybody being afraid was already the environment that was not so nice. But then also, I think, especially on the level of the team members and the manager, what is often said is, a team needs to have a clear goal or reason of existence. And it sounds a bit ridiculous or like a theoretical exercise. But in this case, you could see, okay, this team didn't have a reason of existence. Why do we exist? We're using the same technology. That's actually not a good reason for a team to exist. It should be more like, okay, how do we look like? What is a behavior? How do we look like if we are successful? And this was never answered. It was just, you need to follow this. You need to serve this person. You need to work with this stakeholder. But of course, you can never fulfill all of the requests. And then there will always be somebody being annoyed. And then you need a manager who says, well, first you should have a manager who says, we're going to do this, but not this. If you're not working on the Scrum team, and if you're working on a Scrum team, you should have a PO who says, we're going to do this, and for this, in the next month or sprint, whatever it is, we're going to say first, no, not now, to all of the other things. And we're showing this to everybody, and not backroom policies and somehow everything in the dark, or we change ways every single escalation call.
When you think about teams like this, and of course, teams that exist for any random reason in a highly political organization are unfortunately very common.
Yeah.
What are the things we should really be looking for? Because, I mean, of course, you know, and I know, everybody knows that there are teams that are put together for random reasons in highly political organizations that, despite all of that, succeed.
Yeah.
So what made this team especially prone, I guess we could say, to anti-patterns?
Yeah. I think it's a good point that even the environment can be bad, but the team can still be good. And I think in this case, we never had a good conversation about what is success for us, how should we work together, how can be our team success reflected in individual success and vice versa. If you have the impression that the success is a zero-sum game where if you win, I lose, and vice versa, then it will be really hard. Or if you think a good collaborator is somebody who has all the answers, then discussions about what should we do are very hard to do. So I think it was a bit like, how do you show up at the job, but also then again to the management level, how do you develop your people? What is expected of the people? It was never answered.
I really like that phrase, when success is a zero-sum game, you can't have a team for sure. But now I want to zero in on something that you just mentioned again, which is this idea that management patterns have an influence on how the team develops. When you think back to this story, what were some of those management and leadership patterns that made it impossible for this team to succeed despite the context they were in?
Yeah, the first one I call sandcastle planning. And that's, okay, you do a sprint planning, you say, okay, we are going to aim for this and that should be it. And just after the meeting, manager comes in and throws it overboard and puts in his ideas and says, no, we need this. And you ask yourself, yeah, why did we waste the time in the planning? And over time, you're smart. It's like you build a sandcastle, somebody tramples over the castle. You don't build it again. You don't put in the effort again because you know whatever you say will be overruled anyway. So this is a very painful memory of mine. And the other one was, somebody had worked through the weekend. So weekend work became more the norm, at least for some people had worked through the weekend. And then a mild disagreement led to escalation. Somebody had no nerves left. So first I was quoted into the room with the manager and then into the room with the manager and the manager of the manager. And this kind of, okay. And then they told me, yeah, because you are from Germany, so you must be very authoritarian. So basically telling me as an immigrant, we expect that knowing your culture is all it needs to predict your behavior. So as an immigrant, this was really the worst situation I've ever experienced. Just a couple of months into the country, and yeah, it's not representative of the Dutch, but it was really the worst moment. And after that, I knew, okay, we are not going to discuss topics in safety or with the right level of challenge. If it comes to that, then
one thing that you just said, and I mean you experienced it in that story, reminds me of an anti-pattern, and that is unfortunately very common in politics today: treating other people as labels. So we treat other people as just buckets, like names, labels, instead of treating them as human beings. So in this particular case, instead of them being curious about what your experience was, because maybe you have a different cultural background, you may see things we don't see because we are in the middle of it, right? But instead of that, they just labeled the culture as the problem, right?
Yeah.
You come here, you tell us we're wrong, and because you're the foreigner, you must be the one who is wrong. And that is so self-destructive. No wonder the team was in trouble, because one of the things that we must know is that when people use one label, whether it is immigrant or whatever the label might be, back end, front end, Python, C, whatever the label is, you can immediately know that they're using those labels in their thinking. And there's no telling how many labels there are. And labels kind of narrow our thinking and sometimes trigger even fear reactions because of the foreigner, in your case, literally, in other cases, not so literally, like, Python versus Java and so on, are also cases of being outside the in group, right? And we need to be so careful when using those labels. These days, when you have conversations with managers, maybe, or just the team, how do you keep track for yourself, Gunnar, of where those labels emerge that might lead to lack of empathy, dehumanization of the other?
Yeah. So we said in the introduction that intercultural contexts are very important for me. It's a live topic. I grew up in an international environment, actually in a small town in Western Germany. And what I like a lot is there are several books about it and concepts, is looking into the dimensions of cultures. And what does it mean? And what kind of behavior is expected to be the norm in a specific country? And then finding out, obviously, even according to the culture of my country of origin, I'm not a typical person. There are things that are very different for me. So, for instance, I'm an emotionally expressive person, which is not the norm in Germany. Germany, everybody likes to be very calm and sober, and I always create some irritation when I'm back in my home country. And then I'm even making this an explicit topic of a conversation if you have a new colleague or you're getting to know somebody, and upfront telling them, you know what, in this regard, I'm really typical and more with a smile. And in this regard, I'm totally not typical. And once you've said it, it's like, we are banning the demon. We know the demon's name, because then people know, I'm also aware of how I am and what effect this might have on other people. And then we can find work agreements and say, okay, if I'm more emotionally expressive, I talk a lot, then we should find structures that inhibit me from talking too much, or people are allowed to signal to me when it's too early in the morning for them to get so many emotions. That's totally fine. Or creating more quiet moments. for the introverts and saying, okay, our talking patterns are like this. Maybe we'll take some, if we weren't on a podcast, we would rather take several seconds of silence, which I also like a lot. And I put myself often on mute on a call to intentionally trigger that somebody else breaks the silence.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you just said, like being aware of these cultural patterns, and cultural does not mean different countries or even different cities within a country. Cultural just means the person's culture. And if we are not curious about that person's culture, we will never understand them. Labels and standards do not open the complexity of human existence. If we really want to help teams succeed, I mean, there is no other way around. We need to know these people. We need to know who they are. We need to know their background. We need to know what makes them tick.
Yes, and the thing, after you've seen it work in different teams, you also understand, teams need to find explicit agreements on this is how we work. Maybe you're a bit more polite, maybe you're a bit more open and use strong words, but whatever the standard is, once you've settled for it, make it explicit and live up to it. And if you find over time always shifting, okay, make it explicit and then find a new agreement, or be ready to explain how you're working to a new member so they don't they don't make all the mistakes, or they understand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So much we could talk about on this topic, but that will have to wait for another podcast indeed. Yes. Gunnar, thank you very much for sharing all of that with us.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.